drama, and excitement. The American Sports Cavalcade.
There's been a lot said about the rather high price of life in Northwest Connecticut. But amid the wealthy are also the farmers, the artists, musicians, all relishing the beauty of the land and the traditions that abound. And one of those traditions is refreshingly vibrant. The few days a year, wonderful old Lime Rock Park roars into action with Sports Car Club of America road racing. Hello everyone, I'm Steve Evans, and today from Lime Rock we bring you 100 miles of professional racing in the Escort Trans Am Sedan Championship. Now the headlines throughout the year have been the 5-cylinder turbocharged all-wheel drive Audis. They have won 6 of 8 races, but they take a back seat here at Lime Rock because on the pole is the defending series champion Scott Pruitt and his Lincoln Mercury automobile. You're on the pole. It feels good to have the Audis behind you for a change. Can you keep them there?
Well, this is the same thing that happened in Meadowlands. You know, I had won the pole there, and they just showed their dominance when they can just continually run a hard pace where we start running off our tires. So predominantly, you know, Lime Rock's been a track that's been tough on tires, so we're going to have to wait and see how it goes. We know what pace we can run, and we're going to run that and see how we end up. I know Walter Rules, who's right on your bumper at the start, has impressed you as he has us all. Yeah, he does very, very well. I think that, you know, with all of his rallying experience, he really understands the cars, and I didn't think he'd adapt quite so fastly as he has to the road racing, but he has very, very quickly. So I think he's impressed a lot of people. I'll let you climb in. Have a great race. Thank you. Okay, Scott Pruitt, what a weekend he's having. All right, let's go to Brock Yates, who's with the driver on the outside of the front row.
Steve, I'm with Irv Hare, whose Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme is going to start on the outside of the front row. An excellent achievement for a normally aspirated automobile here. And Irv, first of all, congratulations on a good qualifying run. I know, though, that you and Scott are going to have at it for the first couple of laps at Lime Rock.
Well, yeah, we've had some good races this year, and this is a good track for our normally aspirated V6 Oldsmobile. And we've raced here a lot, so we know the track. The track, you know, is famous for its attrition rate, so we're going to have to be a little conservative, you know, in order to keep the car around for 100 miles.
Okay. Now, let's go to Steve Evans.
Well, Brock, even though Walter Rule is not on the pole or in the front row as he's accustomed, he's in great spirits, trying to stay cool. Walter, this race looks to be maybe a bit tougher, harder work than some of the others.
Yeah, I think we get a lot of handicaps, and it's quite hard for us now. Our car, it's now nearly like a truck, very heavy, small tires. It will be a hard work.
Now, you'd never seen Lime Rock until a couple of days ago. What do you think of one of America's most famous little racetracks?
Yeah, it's famous, but not too difficult. It's a nice track, easy, and in a very nice region.
And if you can turn right, you got it made.
Yes, I will try it really hard.
Okay, thank you, Walter. Brock?
Well, Steve, I'm with a lady who has set a real mark in SCCA Trans Am racing. Lynn St. James is the first ever to get into the vaunted first 5, or the Fast 5 in Trans Am competition. And Lynn, first of all, congratulations on that major accomplishment.
Thank you. I'm very proud of it, but I'm also very thankful because I've got a great car. The XR4TI is a good car. This is a good track for it, and I had a great crew. Willie and Dale did a great job of setting the car up, and Scott helped me a lot too, Scott Pruitt, who knows these cars really well. So with a support team like that, it's about time I did it, I think.
Okay, now we've got 100 miles ahead of you. What's the plan, basically? Just to run as hard as you can and stay with the leaders, or move to the front if possible?
I've got a little bit of a conflict going on inside my head. I'd love to just charge because I do feel pretty good, but I also know how hot it is here, and I know that this racetrack can use cars up, even though it's a good racetrack. So I'm probably going to stick with my basic, not conservative, but, you know, to really just be there and be ready to make a move so I can race the entire race and not use it up at the beginning. So I think that's a more intelligent approach.
Well, we're counting on you and rooting for you. Congratulations again on the Fast 5.
Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Thanks, Brock.
And now let's go to Steve Evans at the back of the field here at Lime Rock, a man who ought to be starting up front, but today he's had some problems.
Well, Brock, normally when I interview Chris Neifel, the driver of the number 72 Pontiac, I find him up front there with Lynn St. James and the rest, but not so today, Chris.
Well, unfortunately, the Olivetti car were, I think they call it dead last, which is 35th, and we just had trouble all weekend and unfortunately missed all our qualifying sessions, so we're stuck back here at the back, but I don't see any problem in moving up to the first 4 or 5 cars.
No problem?
As long as it stays together, it's no problem.
Okay, Chris Neifel at the back, but full of confidence, as you can hear.
Well, Stevie's going to need it because Lime Rock is a demanding little racetrack. They've been running here for over 30 years. It started as kind of an amateur sports car course here in the beautiful hills, the Berkshire Hills in western Connecticut, but has grown into a top professional venue. It's a very fast course, very simple in its own way, all right turns except for one left-hand corner, 7 corners in all, 1.53 miles. But a very high average speed for a relatively short course like this, Steve Evans.
It is, Brock, and earlier during time trials, we mounted our Diamond Peak camera in this beautiful red and white Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme, driven by Paul Gentilozzi, the number 7 car. Gentilozzi from Lansing, Michigan, a former pro stock drag racer and a man who's already scored this year on the Trans Am circuit, winning the Long Beach race.
Okay, let's climb in with Paul Gentilozzi into his Oldsmobile Cutlass as he exits the relatively narrow pit lane here at Lime Rock Park and take a ride.
Our lap will begin down the long front straightaway where these Trans Am cars will hit about 150 to 160 miles per hour. That straight leads into turn 1 called Big Bend. You'll see a lot of passing there under braking, and you can see it's a diminishing radius. It gets very narrow as the turn continues around to the right.
As you said, this is where most of the passing takes place. Right here, as Gentilozzi gets hard on the brakes and sets up for what is actually 2 corners. The Big Bend right here, a sweeper as you enter it, but then, as you said earlier, it tightens up very much right here at the apex as Gentilozzi sweeps off that corner and heads down toward the S's.
And there at the bottom of the S, you can see the only left-hand turn here at Lime Rock. Now, as you continue through the S's, you start your climb uphill towards what's called the no-name straight. Apparently, that little kink or wide spot in the road doesn't qualify as a turn on the no-name straight.
Okay, here comes Gentilozzi into the left-hander in the first part of the S's, sweeping down low and then heading into the right-hander as he exits out onto the no-name straightaway. Here he'll upshift into 3rd gear and head down toward a climbing turn at the end of this corner. Hard on the brakes now.
And still in 3rd gear, the climbing turn, a rather gentle 90-degree bend, but it's a blind turn. It can be very hazardous.
And here comes Gentilozzi down the no-name straight, quickly catches 4th gear, then back up into 3rd, sets up for the climbing turn, and notice that he loses vision for just a second as he crests the hill.
And after a very quick little back straightaway, it's into what they call the West Bend, another right-hand turn, but the track is a little bit loose here. You'll see a lot of cars sliding through this turn, drivers fighting for control. And now, after going uphill, you start downhill, passing under the second of 2 bridges and into the diving turn. About the scariest part of this course. It's downhill, it's narrow, and it's blind. And you've got to carry a lot of speed because that brings you out onto the front straightaway.
Okay, here comes Gentilozzi through the right-hander called the West Bend. Now, he's trying to pick up speed downhill. It's a little off-camber down through here and a little bit narrow through the diving turn and out onto the front straightaway. An upshift into 4th gear, catching maybe 160 miles an hour before he gets all over the brakes at the end of the straight.
Well, those 7 turns pack an awful lot of action into just 1.53 miles. And Paul Gentilozzi will be carrying our onboard camera throughout the 100 miles of the Trans Am Sedan Championship to come. In fact, the field just now starting to move.
And like the rest of the United States this summer, it's hot at Lime Rock in the middle 90s here. And that causes concern along pit row about tire wear on this very difficult short little racetrack, and also just driver fatigue because there's not a whole lot of room to cool off at 1.5 miles in this racetrack, which is set down in a little bowl here in the Berkshire Mountains.
Yeah, there is no breeze whatsoever. Well, already the confidence of Chris Neifel may be tempered a bit. You'll recall he's starting at the very back in that number 72 Pontiac and got underway rather slowly. And not getting underway at all right now is Mike Chasuli in the number 16 Oldsmobile. He's a teammate of Irv Hare. That car is stationary on the grid.
Well, Steve, we've got 2 more Oldsmobiles still to do battle. This, of course, is Gentilozzi's, and up ahead of him is Irv Hare. So Oldsmobile's effort here in the Trans Am may pay off yet.
We talked about the humidity. I'll tell you, it is so brutal that occasionally you may notice one of our camera lenses fogging up, as Brock's camera did several times in his pre-race interviews.
It was pretty hot down there, and we had a couple of heated discussions. I'll grant you that, Steve.
You know, Paul Gentilozzi, not all his laps of this weekend were quite as successful as the one he took us on around Lime Rock. He was enjoying his ride down the no-name straight, headed for the climbing turn. You'll actually hear the car unload a bit as he crests this hill. Listen just a second. Hear it there? And up in front of him, there's some smoke, and that's a bad sign. There's oil on the racetrack. Gentilozzi cannot avoid it, and into the tire wall he goes.
A tough break, but they did get the car repaired. Fortunately, those tires saved big damage to the race car, and he's back in the grid as we watch Scott Pruitt and the #1 Jack Roush Mercoeur lead this field down on yet another pace lap here at Lime Rock. It's going to be hot. It's going to be 100 miles of competition here. No pit stops expected. It's flat out. So stay with us. We're going green right after this. The pace laps continue here at Lime Rock, Connecticut as we get ready for a start. In the third position is Walter Rural, who you'll remember told Steve Evans on the grid that his Audi behaves like a truck. Kind of strange from a team that has dominated competition so far. Earlier, Steve had a look at the situation.
In most forms of racing, the associations draft the rules. The racers build their cars according to those rules and they race, right? Well, the Trans Am Series is a little more frustrating than that for the Sports Car Club of America because they've got V6s, straight 6s, V8s, turbo 4s on trying to make them all race equitably. And along this year comes Audi with a brilliantly designed turbocharged 5-cylinder engine and all-wheel drive, and not a purpose-built race car, but really a 4-door steel unit-bodied sedan. No one knew what it was capable of. So they said, okay, you start out at 2,450 pounds. Well, you know what happened. It turns out to be just the dominant car in the series. So after Brainerd, SCCA came along and said, okay, you got to put 100 pounds of lead in those cars, guys. So they did, and they continued to win. Well, just before this race, they've come to the Audi camp and said, okay, guys, another 100 pounds of lead. They had also already put a restrictor into the turbo, and they also said, no, those big tires you've got, you had Goodyear design, you're going to have to lose those and go to a tire that has a 1-inch narrower contact patch. These are rain tires, not the actual tires they're racing on. So they've lost 4 inches of tire. They've gained another 100 pounds of weight. The Audi guys are hot. They don't like it at all. They think it's their good engineering and their good drivers that make the difference. SCCA thinks there's that much potential in these cars to carry those handicaps. We'll find out today, won't we?
Well, I'll tell you what, they're hot, and it hasn't anything to do with the temperature here at Lime Rock. Walter Rural complaining about the car being like a truck, and Hurley Haywood, who leads in the points in the other Audi, he's way back in the 11th starting spot. So Hurley is unhappy as well. There is Gentilozzi's car, the Oldsmobile, with our in-car camera sitting on the grid, and they're coming down, Steve, and Scott Pruitt leads them toward the green.
And he brings them down rather slowly, Brock, I think, to keep the boost down on the Audi. Joe Hewitt, the starter, has the green out, and into Big Bend they go. It is the blue car of Scott Pruitt.
And here we are in the middle of the action with Paul Gentilozzi going a little wide into Big Bend and losing the 10th spot to Rick Bell in the black 36.
But the most decisive move at the start had to be the red and white car number 33, Paul Newman. He moved from 6th right into 3rd, using the dirt, everything he had. This is his home track, Brock. We saw him win here 2 years ago.
Right, Steve. He began racing here, kind of a test ride, about 15 years ago. As we watch Gentilozzi go back up the no-name straight, trying to get back that 10th spot from Rick Bell. Cresting the hill here. There goes that race car getting a little bit light. Here they come down the hill under the bridge. There is Walter Rural. Now right behind him in the 88 Corvette is Darren Brasfield, Steve. He started in the 5th spot and seems to be making a move.
Darren Brasfield coming up on the Audi right here. Walter Rural as they go into Big Bend. Brasfield on the inside. Who has got the better line? The 4-wheel drive, I believe, paid off right there for Walter Rural. He can drive anywhere in the racetrack.
Well, he did. He took a wide line and kind of nipped in the bud Brasfield's attempt to get underneath him. So Brasfield, though, right behind Rural as they head through the S's, not giving an inch. Darren Brasfield, one of the finest young drivers in this league and any other, from Los Gatos, California, has run all kinds of high horsepower race cars. And believe me, I think this number 88 Corvette of Tommy Morrison, Steve, has a bunch of horsepower. We're going to hear more from him as this race unfolds.
That's right. And what's so awesome, though, is to watch Rules in some of these turns. He can just pitch the rear end of that Audi out, and it sticks. A lot of other cars would slide. There's Scott Pruitt, the leader, the number 1 Lincoln Mercury car.
And right behind him, Irv Hare holding onto that 2nd spot. In the 3rd spot, Paul Newman in the Nissan, the Rural in the Audi, and the Corvette of Brasfield rounding out the top 5. Interesting, 5 different makes of automobile Oldsmobiles here competing for the lead.
And here's why the fans come to these Trans Am races, to see competition like that between the imported Audi, just a masterpiece of engineering, and Darren Brassfield in the Corvette with a little low compression V8 motor.
Right.
But here they are dead equal.
9-to-1 compression being used by both Brassfield and Scott Pruitt. So those seem to be engines that'll work. So we've got V8, we got a turbocharged 5-cylinder, we got a turbocharged V6, and a couple of V8s and a V6 in there. So a wild variety of race cars competing in this Trans Am series.
And here we'll see a big interval from the Corvette that just exited the screen. That is Darren Brassfield. And here in the 6th spot is the Lincoln Mercury automobile of Lynn St. James. So she has fallen back a couple of places, but she told Brock on the grid she was going to take a conservative approach. And the black number 3 car just behind Lynn in the 7th spot, that is Deborah Gregg. The yellow car making a move on the inside, that was number 8, Les Lindley in his Camaro. And behind Lindley, the number 40, the white machine of Jim Durhod. Then 36, Rick Bell in a Camaro. And here we are with Paul Gentilozzi. He's in the 11th spot in his Oldsmobile. And just behind Gentilozzi, you see the second of the Audis. That is Hurley Haywood, the 44 car. He's in the 12th spot. Further back than one might have expected, Brock.
Right, Steve. I sort of thought he'd make a charge toward the front, but that 44 Audi is sitting back there right behind this automobile, Paul Gentilozzi, and just in front of him is Rick Bell in the black Camaro that got by him on the first lap, and Gentilozzi has not been able to move in on him at all.
All right, here we see that tussle for 7th. It continues. Deborah Gregg in the black number 3 car, and right behind her, the bright yellow Camaro. That is Les Lindley, Anaheim, California. Lindley is making a move, yes, on Deborah Gregg, but doesn't appear to be able to match her horsepower. Not yet, anyway. Into Big Bend. We'll find out who's got the best brakes.
There goes Lindley down low, but Gregg pulls him off as they sweep through that. Now it tightens up a little bit. Back to Gentilozzi, and he and Rick Bell going at it just as hard as they can. Gentilozzi, I'm sure, trying to move back through this field in the early stages of this race, but there's not a whole lot of passing going on in this cluster of cars from about 6th place back to 12th. All right, Lindley trying to get by Gregg again as they head into the climbing turn. He gets underneath her a little bit. Now he's alongside her. They're heading toward the West Bend. I think Lindley has probably taken over that position. Yes, he has gotten by Deborah Gregg and now moved out a little bit.
A nice pass by Les Lindley. And a nice pass is something that Paul Gentilozzi here in the number 7 Olds would like to execute on Rick Bell, the 36 black Camaro in front of him. This race for the 10th spot has been kind of status quo here.
Okay, Durhag in the 40 car tries to challenge Deborah Gregg in the 3. Can't make it work, so they all line up. That's the 44 car of Hurley Haywood, the Audi, right in there just ahead of Jerry Kuhn. As we go back to Gentilozzi in the in-car, heading into the S's, Steve Evans, and he is fighting, trying to get by Rick Bell. Rick Bell all over the racetrack in that black Camaro, but he's hanging on to that 10th spot.
And after Gentilozzi's incident we showed you in qualifying, he's not about to take any chances. Look at that pass. He snapped right by Rick Bell and is now moving in on Jim Durhod, the white number 40 Camaro. There is Hurley Haywood also getting by Bell, as does number 10 Jerry Kuhn. That will put him in the 12th spot. And now that fight for 9th, though, is between 40 Jim Durhod, the white machine, and number 7, our man with the camera, Paul Gentilozzi. This car appears to be handling a little bit better now, Brock. Doesn't appear to be quite as loose as it was on the opening laps.
Okay, a little rubber getting laid down a racetrack, but we've got a yellow flag. A caution is out. Durhad moves in the 40, and Hurley Haywood blew by both of them, but that won't count. We've got a full course caution here, so everybody backs down. And I'm sure Hurley, yes, he'll drop back into the position that he held before, right behind Gentilozzi.
All right, the caution is out for a couple of reasons. They're saying there may be some debris down in Big Bend, and also you remember Mike Jasuli had a problem at the start. Well, he's parked in a rather dangerous position. So the Sports Car Club of America has the yellow out. We'll be right back.
Well, this is beautiful Kent Falls, just a few miles down the road from Lime Rock Park. And I'll tell you what, Steve Evans, I can think of about 36 young men and women in race cars that might trade places with that couple right now.
I can think of a couple of commentators, too. But I wouldn't trade places with Scott Pruitt in the blue number 1 car in the lead under caution, because it's over 100 degrees in this car. I'm sure he'd like to get a green flag out just to create a breeze, if nothing else. Herb Hare in the Oldsmobile right behind him. Paul Newman in that 3rd slot. Here's the remainder of the top 10. Our camera car, Paul Gentilozzi, has moved into that 10th spot and hopes to take Jim Durhag when indeed that green comes out.
And one team seems to be dominating right now. The Jack Roush team from Detroit has 3 cars in the top 10. earlier, Steve stopped by that pit for a look.
I thought I'd check in here at Jack Roush, Lincoln Mercury, and see just what he has in stock and ready for immediate delivery to his drivers. Jack could open a dealership with the number of cars he's got. First of all, there's the black number 3 XR4 TI. Deborah Gregg will drive it here. A year ago, this very car won the Trans Am here at Lime Rock with Pete Halsmer at the wheel. Now, right next door, another lady driver, another XR4 TI, 2.5-liter 4-cylinder turbocharged car. Lynn St. James became the first lady here this weekend to break into the Fast 5 in qualifying. That is the car that won the overall championship a year ago for Scott Pruitt. And amazing Lynn's performance here, considering that an awful lot of weight has been added to those cars since they won the title. Now, for Scott Pruitt, they always have something a little different. Now, this is an XR8 TI. We talked about it before at Niagara Falls, only available in South Africa or Zimbabwe or somewhere. Now, it's a little bit different, though, than when you saw it at Niagara. It's a V8 still in this car, but it's not the small high-compression motor. They've gone to 355 cubic inches, low 9-to-1 compression. That means they can take 25 pounds off the car, and according to the Jack Roush dyno, it makes 50 more horsepower in the middle of its range and 25 up on top. So it's faster, even though it's lower compression, because of the additional cubic inches. But some say you could put Scott Pruitt in a pedal car and he'd run up front anyway.
Well, that's where he is right now as he comes down the front straightaway to take the green on a restart. Right behind him, Irv Hare, but the 33 Nissan of Paul Newman challenging on the outside for that second spot. There they go through the Big Bend. Pretty much even as Pruitt comes off, down, heading down toward the S's. Pruitt carrying that number 1 based on his championship of last year. And Steve, it looks as if he's got just a little bit of edge in terms of acceleration over Irv Hare in that number 2 Oldsmobile.
That is a very high compression V6 in Irv Hare's car. Just behind him is the 6-cylinder turbocharged Nissan of Paul Newman. And look at Darren Brasfield and Walter Rural. They continue to go at it. Brasfield will pull up on him in the turns, peek around, but just can't get by the powerful 5-cylinder Audi.
Brasfield very aggressive, diving underneath on almost all the entries into these slower corners here in Lime Rock, but just can't quite make it work. Here comes Pruitt leading that little group of 5 down the front straightaway. Pruitt, Irv Hare, there's 143 mile an hour trap speed on him. A little slower than expected, Steve. I think it probably has to do with the very slippery conditions here at Lime Rock based on the heat. It's just plenty hot in that Cuts track.
Well, Scott Pruitt told us earlier this track is notoriously hard on tires, so he may be pacing his rubber as well.
It's possible as we watch that race between Deborah Gregg in the number 3 and Jim Derhaag in the number 40 white Camaro. And there's Giannolosi still back in the 10th spot in his Oldsmobile, coming down the no-name straightaway. Right ahead of him is Derhaag. Giannolosi, as we said, an experienced race driver both in NHRA Pro Stock drag racing and in Trans Am competition. He's moved in a little bit on Derhaag now as they head into the West Bend. That sweeping right-hander is now down the hill. Deborah Gregg still leading that little pack. There is Deborah Gregg, Jacksonville, Florida, an experienced young lady behind the wheel of a lot of different kinds of race cars and getting better all the time.
And a part of this whole battle is this man, Paul Giannolosi. He is currently in the 10th spot. That is Jim Derhaag up in front of him in the Camaro, and just in front of Derhaag is Deborah Gregg. Jim Derhaag in that white number 40 Camaro Bronco has entered and won more Trans Ams than any other driver ever.
And right now, not, I'm sure, too happy with that 9th spot. He's run up among the leaders in years past, and got to be a little bit upset, I would imagine, as is Giannolosi. Both these guys used to running near the lead. Giannolosi having won one of the Trans Ams already this year. He's working mighty hard, first of all, to get by Derhaag, and then hopefully both of them can run down. Deborah Gregg is doing a mighty fine job holding off both these experienced drivers. Down once again, down through that very fast, sweeping right-hand bend leading onto the front straightaway. This is where the big speeds occur here at Lime Rock. There you see Giannolosi shifting up into 4th gear. Just a few more seconds he's going to have to get all over the brakes for that, to set up for that fast right-hander at the end called the Big Bend. Here come your leaders through the S's. Bringing up the rear of that little cluster of 5 is Darren Brasfield in the 88 Corvette, trying to move in on Walter Rural in the all-wheel drive Audi. And now let's go to Steve in the pits with Mike Gisuli, who never got off the mark.
Mike, when we were in your pit, your crew said they had an electrical problem that they thought they had solved.
Well, what happened was it had something to do with the battery. The battery was getting a drain on it and couldn't get the car started. And unfortunately, the motor is filled up with fuel, and And when they took the spark plugs out, fuel was shooting all over the place, and we finally got it started. But, you know, the fuel injection systems in those cars work very poorly when they don't have the proper voltage to keep them going, and I think that's what kind of put me down there.
Well, it wasn't for a want of trying on your crew. I know they had 3 different starters and a half a dozen batteries in it. They tried to find whatever it was.
Yeah, we just couldn't get it going. Couldn't do it.
Sorry to see you out, Mike.
Yeah, they did everything they could do. That's called racing, you know.
And there'll be others.
Yeah, definitely. I'll be back.
The end of a bad day for Mike. Stalled on a pace lap, and then once again the car broke and brought out the caution earlier.
Rock, how about this guy, Chris Knife with number 72. He certainly holds the title so far for the most passes completed. He started in 35th. He is now at 17th, and that is Bruce Nesbitt in the 50 car just in front of him in the 16th spot. Chris Knife, a veteran of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway of numerous forms of racing, a long, tall, athletic young man. And there he goes, taking that 16th spot from Nesbitt.
All right, so Chris continues to work his way back up toward the front. Remember, he told you, Steve, that he thought he could run with the leaders. It just obviously gave himself a giant handicap with trouble in qualifying and put them at the back of the grid. But he's in the middle of the field right now as we go back to that race for the 3rd spot. Paul Newman, Walter Rural, and Darren Brassfield coming down the no-name straightaway. And Brassfield continues to hammer on the rear bumper of Walter Rural. Can't seem to get by him, but I'll tell you what, Steve, I have a feeling that if Darren does get by Walter, he's going to break out and move away from him. Well, I think Walter's just driving really well and kind of holding him up a little bit.
Well, I agree with you. Walter Rural, a many-time world rally champion, pronounced this track as being easy. Well, he's not finding the competition to be easy. He's having his hands full. He is going to get around that lap car right there. That is number 27, George Smith. He's falling back. And here is Brassfield. He takes a look on the outside and now falls in line. He's not going to take a chance. It might spin him in Big Bend.
You know, Walter, as you said, Steve, an experienced rally driver, but those guys tend to run alone, and some of them don't adapt too well to racetrack conditions because of the racecraft. Not so with Rural. He is terrific in racing traffic. He moves that race car around, uses the traffic, the slower traffic to hold up Darren. It's all fair, believe me, but Rural is a terrific race driver on all kinds of circuits. Believe me, he is a phenomenon.
Well, the easiest pass Walter will make all day was on the 18 car, the lap car of David Yarmoliuk. David just politely moved over and let these 2 Chargers by. We'll be back in Lime Rock, Connecticut for more SCCA Trans Am action right after this.
Gates along with Steve Evans, and the Trans Am continues to unfold with Scott Pruitt, Herb Hare, Paul Newman, Walter Rural, and Darren Brassfield rounding out the top 5, nose to tail. In the second 5, Lynn St. James continues to hold on to 6, but we've had a change for the 10th spot. The man you're riding with, Paul Gentilozzi, has been passed by Hurley Haywood in the second Audi.
Now, Gentilozzi is usually the court jester of the Trans Am Series. I'm sure is not laughing right now. He's got a lap car in front of him. Again, that is 18 David Yarmoliuk in a Mazda automobile. Now, Yarmoliuk moves over, Gentilozzi gets passed.
Down the no-name straightaway, there is Gentilozzi driving hard. Got to be a little bit disappointed, though, because he had to give way to Hurley Haywood right there in the number 44 Audi, moving in on Jim Terhag and Deborah Gregg. So we wondered when Hurley Haywood would start to make his move, Steve. It looks as if he is beginning to make that charge toward the lead.
Oh, yeah, the clock is ticking away, and Hurley knows that. The miles reel by, and you can just see a change in his driving style. All of a sudden, he says, hey, if the brakes aren't going to come my way, I better make my own.
Well, that car very quick. Hurley, having won one of these races already this season, a very experienced race driver, had a big crash in Champ Car Racing and kart competition a few years back. Hurt his foot very badly, limped around the pits for a couple of years, but now has regained his driving form and is surely one of the very best. There is Paul Gentilozzi one more time down the no-name straightaway, still moving up, trying to get back up into the top 10 after falling back.
And he's doing that by driving deeper into the turns. You can see him pull right up on the bumper of Hurley Haywood. He lost a lot of time behind that lap car and has more than made up for it. A good drive by Gentilozzi here.
There is Gentilozzi right in the 40 car. That's Jim Terhag. There you see Gentilozzi down that hill, right in behind Hurley Haywood in the Audi. Up ahead is Gregg, and then Terhag. So we've got 4 cars right here in a row. There goes Deborah Gregg past the slower car. 141 mile an hour trap speed for her down the fastest part of this racetrack. So here comes Deborah Gregg leading Terhag, Hurley Haywood, and Gentilozzi through the Big Bend. Der Haag's been behind her for a whole bunch of laps. Just can't seem to get by Deborah Gregg. A very determined drive by the lady, currently sitting in the 8th spot here at Lime Rock.
And this is a kind of a course that's very adaptable for the turbocharged automobiles. They don't have the turbo lack they have on some of the tighter courses. A man with no lack whatsoever is Scott Pruitt. In the dark blue #1 car, the defending series champion, he has led from the hint of green and has never really looked back. Behind him is Herb Hare driving the conservative race he said he would. Nothing conservative about Darren Brassfield. Brassfield finally makes the move he has wanted to on Walter Rural. The Audi now falls back in position. The Corvette moves up one.
Oh, Darren Brassfield into the 4th spot as we watch him move by the number 98 car of John Schneider. Just around the outside of him, no problem through the S's. So as I thought, Steve, it looks as if Brassfield is moving out on Walter Rural once he got by him.
And he just got by another lap car, the 92 machine of Phil Bartell, and closes in on Jim Derhaag.
All right, there's some traffic back here with our pals back there in that 8th through 11th spot. Paul Gentilozzi still trying to get by Hurley Haywood, of course, who passed him earlier in the going. So this cluster of 4 cars have been together almost from the start. The only change being Hurley passing Gentilozzi, and now Gentilozzi trying to get back that spot.
And I'm sure Paul Newman, running in 3rd in the Nissan cars right now, looking at his mirror, and he sees a new challenger. A man about 37 years his junior is Paul Newman, out driving a very competitive race in his early 60s. The man never seems to get any slower, Brock. He's just so consistent. But look at Brassfield in the Corvette. Brassfield with a very brave move on the inside.
Well, there he goes. Darren Brassfield now moves into the 3rd spot, and that only confirms what I said earlier, Steve, that Walter Rural was doing a super job of holding off a determined attack by Darren Brassfield.
Well, number 7, Paul Gentilozzi in the Olds has a better view than anybody of that battle for the 8th spot. The 3 cars up in front of him. Hurley Haywood in the 44 Audi. He's in 10th. Then Jim Derhaag in the number 40 Camaro. And Deborah Gregg tenaciously in the turbocharged 4-cylinder XR4 TI, hanging on to that 8th spot.
She's got 3 experienced drivers sitting right on her rear bumper, but she hasn't given an inch. So Deborah Gregg maintains that 8th spot. Down the hill, here's our ride with Paul Gentilozzi. A puff of smoke in that race car, Steve, and he has come off the line. He's heading toward the inside of the racetrack and down pit lane. Believe me, you cannot make a pit stop in a 100-mile sprint race like this and not lose a disastrous amount of time. Big, tough break for Paul Gentilozzi as he comes into his pit. There's the pit board. Crewman's going to go after that car, tear the fiberglass hood off the race car, try to determine what the trouble is. But believe me, any chance for victory is totally disintegrated for Paul Gentilozzi.
Well, so far, Paul, ever the optimist, is staying in the... Oh, and look, right behind him, that is Chris Neifel. Neifel has brought that car in as well. He had passed 19 drivers to move well past the middle of the pack. He is in simultaneously, and Gentilozzi has shut the engine off. He may be all done.
Very possible. A very tough break for both these extremely competitive drivers. Looks as if they're finished for the day. If they're not, their chances for victory are gone here at Lime Rock. Chris Neifel started 35th, passed 19 cars and a charge towards the front, only to have it end here in the pits. But both drivers staying in the race car. That is Gentilozzi impatiently hammering on the steering wheel, breathing hard as he watches his crewman through the windshield tear off. Now the air box comes off, the fuel injection system. He's talking on the radio, trying to tell the folks what the problem is, but believe me, this is going to cost him enormous amounts of time. We'll be back at Lime Rock for more of the Escort Trans Am after this.
Well, judging by the lack of activity on the waterways and in the forests here in Litchfield County, Connecticut, I guess even all the locals are enjoying the action at Lime Rock Park as the Sports Car Club of America's Trans Am Sedan Championship continues. I'm Steve Evans along with Brock Yates, and still on top of the leaderboard is Scott Pruitt, the Lincoln Mercury automobile. Herb Hare in the Olds right behind him, then Brassfield in a Corvette, Newman and Nissan, and Walter Rural in an Audi. You can't ask for better variety than that, Brock.
And look at this, Steve. Hurley Haywood, while we were away, has clawed his way past Jim Derhaag to take over the 9th spot. So he continues to move ahead, and his teammate, Walter Rural, in the 14 Audi, works on Paul Newman, trying to get by him. He is in the 5th spot. Walter Rural has never been able to challenge the leaders like he has in races past, attributed, no doubt, to that extra weight and smaller tires and a little bit less turbo pressure pressure that you talked about. But right now, though, these two turbo cars are going at it for that 4th position. And look at this. We got a race car off the corner. That's Bob Cabela, Littleton, New Hampshire, in his Corvette. Got a little bit wide as both Newman and Ruhr went by underneath them. Got out on the grass. It doesn't look like, though, there's any damage, and I would imagine he'll get back underway.
Here's that race for 8th spot. That's the black car. Number 3, Deborah Gregg from Florida, still managing to hold off Hurley Haywood in the number 44 car. And it's interesting here because Hurley Haywood is the vice president of the car dealership that Deborah Gregg owns.
That's right. I wonder whether she's going to let him buy or not. She's got her choice, I would imagine, as Deborah Gregg comes out of the S's and heads down the no-name straightaway with her employee, Hurley Haywood, right on her rear bumper.
They came up the climbing turn, Hurley Haywood right on the bumper, and he looked to the inside, and yes, he said, sorry, boss lady, I've got to take the 8th position away from you. So Deborah Gregg drops back to 9th. And right now, let's go to the pits. Brock Yates is with the man who was part of this very battle.
Steve, I'm with Paul Gentilozzi, who was running well, and then all of a sudden parked the car. What was it, maybe a rocker arm or something in the valve train, Paul?
2 studs that hold the valve cover arm popped off, and it was allowing oil to leak badly onto the tire and the header. The stud broke off flush with the head, and we couldn't get it out.
That's a new one for me. I've heard of a lot of them, but that's a rare one.
It is really. It happens sometime in Winston Cup, but very seldom ever here.
All right, so Paul Gentilozzi out of the race, but can still muster a smile as he just about always can. And here's a good race for the 6th spot. The 5th in her team, Lindsay James. Right behind her is this man, Les Lindley, Anaheim, California, the privateer yellow Camaro.
Every once in a while, Les will come to a Trans Am and put, with 2 cars, and put Willie T. Ribs in the second machine, but right now he's running it alone as he runs 142 miles an hour down the front straightaway and gets underneath Lynn through turn number 1, the big bend. So Les Lindley takes over the 6th spot in a very decisive pass. And look at Lynn St. James, gets on the brakes too hard in the S's and falls back a little bit more as Les Lindley moves out. Interesting contrast here. Les Lindley, a wealthy businessman. Lynn St. James, a professional. You get them all in sports car racing. This is one of the numerous computers in the pit area keeping track of the scoring. This particular one in the timing tower, the official scores of the Sports Car Club of America. All these folks, they're volunteers. All kinds of work available through the Sports Car Club of America for people who want to come to the races. The membership information, 1-800-255-5550. If you want to join a club of 40,000 enthusiasts, all of whom are involved in the sport in one way or another, call this number right away. And now let's go to Steve.
Well, Brock, Paul Newman apparently reported via radio to his crew that he thought he had a left rear tire problem. The crew immediately sprung into action, oiled up the air wrenches, got the proper tires out, but so far he has not come into the pits. And it's awfully hard, as we've explained before, for a driver to know exactly which tire it is. They're not taking any chances. They've got 4 guys and 4 tires. They're liable to even change them all if they have to. But Newman still might be in.
Okay, Steve, remember this pair. That's Deborah Gregg in the black number 3 Mercure. Right on her tail, Jim Gerhag in the number 40 Camaro. And behind them is Rick Bell in the 36 Camaro. This trio, they've been at it literally from the drop of the green flag. And I don't think the distance between them has varied more than a car length or 2 since the start.
Rick Bell, that number 36 car, is based right here in Litchfield County, Brock. He's one of the few that literally could almost drive his race car to the track. Right now, what he'd like to do is drive it around Jim Gerhag. But there's a little bit of smoke out of the car. Do you see that?
Yep. It looks like maybe he's falling back a little bit. There is Paul Newman. He has made the stop, and you're right, Steve. They are changing the left rear. As you said, that was the tire that Newman reported he was having problems with. So that, too, is going to put him way back and end any opportunities that he had for victory here. As we said, there is no chance for a pit stop. And there is Rick Bell in the 36 Camaro. He has arrived at the pits. So we've got a continuation of trouble here. This racetrack, as we said earlier, causes a big attrition rate, especially on tires and brakes.
Well, you know, you can't visually really see anything wrong with that tire, but it could have been a balance situation. As if Paul didn't lose enough time in the pits, he has to come to a complete stop to avoid a collision with Rick Bell. We'll be back to Lime Rock right after this.
And then hooked up with Jim Gerhag and Deborah Gregg for a hardy battle, and then all of a sudden dove into the pits, and it looks like terminal engine problems for the number 36 Camaro.
And brought terrific action up front. Scott Pruitt continues to lead it. Irv Hare still in that second spot. But Darren Brasfield starting to move in on Hare and may challenge. Also still a terrific fight for that 8th position. Deborah Gregg, Jim Derhagen, and Jerry Kuhn.
Good battle, but all eyes right now are on the number 88 Corvette of Darren Brasfield. Remember, he started in the 6th spot. Slowly worked his way through by Walter Rohrl, who was a major obstacle and perfectly within the rules, I might add, but now has his eye on 2nd spot. Here is the race for 8th, and who is it but Jim Derhagen finally gets by Deborah Gregg going down into the Big Bend. And there is Jerry Kuhn in the number 10 Camaro getting underneath Deborah Gregg as well, Steve.
Well, Deborah wanted to duck right back in and get the line behind their Hobbit. Couldn't do it because Jerry Kuhn very alertly filled that real estate. That was some smart race car driving. And here is the terrific race we thought would shape up for 2nd, and it has. Irv Hare in the 15th car, the Oldsmobile in the 2nd spot. Now he's going to have to defend that position because look at Darren Brasfield. Brasfield so aggressive, and another good race shaping up. Lynn St. James in the 2 car trying to get around Les Lindley, or is it Lindley trying to run away from St. James?
That's right. They've had a good battle here. Lynn having lost that spot a few laps earlier to Les Lindley, and now has moved in on him again. Here is the race for 2nd. Brasfield, number 88 Corvette, right in behind the number 15 Cutlass of Irv Hare, and they move in on Danny May in a Thunderbird. He's a lap car, and look at this. Brasfield right between the 2 of them to take over that 2nd spot. A daring pass by Darren Brasfield. Beautiful, Steve.
Just like threading a needle. What a smart young race car driver at just the age of 24, showing that kind of alertness. We have got just a terrific battle for that 2nd position now. Irv Hare behind Brasfield. You know that had to surprise Irv just a little bit.
Well, another car way up ahead of those guys got off in the dirt a little bit and threw up some dirt, and it could have caused just a moment's hesitation on the part of Hare and caused Brasfield to make a very daring and a very, very heady move into that 2nd spot.
Well, the lap traffic now starts to play a very interesting role, and it's how you use those vehicles to your advantage that could make a big difference. We just saw Darren Brasfield use one of those cars very positively.
Well, now Darren Brasfield has put about 10 cars between him and Irv Hare. The number 88 Tommy Morrison Corvette is really running well. Now, there's your leader, Scott Pruitt. We've kind of forgotten about him, but believe me, he hasn't forgotten about Darren Brasfield, who is closing in on him and may be challenging for the lead here in a couple of laps.
You're talking about 2 young drivers, Scott Pruitt and Darren Brasfield, both under 30, both grew up in Northern California. Scott Pruitt used go-karting to get to this point. Darren Brasfield started in low-powered road racing equipment. They know each other's style. They've raced each other many times. They're good friends off the racetrack, but right now this is going to be a battle of pride and horsepower.
It sure is, as we've also got Irv Hare still in the hunt. He's sitting back there in the 3rd spot. So 3 young, very capable, very aggressive drivers here dominating the competition. And believe me, youth counts here. This is a very tight racetrack. It's a very, very hot day. And physical conditioning inside these closed cockpit cars is going to become important. Earlier, Steve had a look at the kind of equipment used to combat heat in race cars.
The temperature today is right about 93 degrees, but due to the high humidity, the heat index is a little over 100. So the majority of these drivers will be using some type of cooling apparatus. Now, Mike Chisuli in the number 16 Oldsmobile is using the latest version of a cool suit. Inside the cockpit, you see that canister. It has copper coils inside. It'll be filled with ice, water pumped through the coils. Now, that cold water, in turn, goes up to a vest that Mike will be wearing and also a cap under his helmet. Now, if the ice holds out, he should have a very comfortable ride. Now, the captain of this 2-car team, Irv Hare in the number 15 Oldsmobile, he's taking a little different approach. He had a cool suit fail on him one time and start pumping hot water. So what Irv has done is have the crew add some temporary fresh air ducts on the driver's side and on the passenger side. And you see that cylinder in there? Strapped to the roll cage? Well, that is full of refrigerant under pressure. It flows through these little plastic tubes and through his helmet. So Irv truly has an air-conditioned helmet. He'll sacrifice that body heat to keep a cool head.
Back to the race for 2nd. Brasfield and Hare moving in on Deborah Gregg in the black number 3 Mercour. She is in 10th spot currently. She'll move over, though, I would imagine, to let Brasfield and Hare by.
Yes, she does. As they go into the Big Bend, you see Deborah now duck right back in. hoping that she can find some way to catch back up to the field. She has dropped back, as you said, to the 10th position. Well, as Darren Brassfield continues to pursue Scott Pruitt, he's got a car between them, and that is Jerry Kuhn. He's in the 9th spot, has already been lapped by Pruitt. Brassfield trying to do the same thing. Chris Neifel, who had gone back out on the racetrack, has got terminal problems now. Apparently, the car is parked in the pits. Chris is out and appears to be looking for a wet towel somewhere and a good cold glass of lemonade. So fine drive by Chris Neifel coming from the back, picking up some 19 places, but his day will end. We'll be back to Lime Rock right after this.
This is the railroad station in nearby Canaan, Connecticut. In years past, this was the only way all the folks got up here for a variety of cultural events. In fact, Tanglewood, the world-famous music area, is just a few miles down the road from Lime Rock. But meanwhile, back at the racetrack in Lime Rock, we're under caution. This car, the number 70 Corvette of Peter Angergetti, stalled out on the course. They brought out the tow truck to get things clear. And now, let's go to Steve with Chris Neifel.
You know, I got the feeling talking to you at the back of the pack where you had to start that you weren't totally convinced yourself that it was right.
Well, I guess you always got to try and be a salesman,
right.
But there wasn't really much of a chance. It hadn't run all week, so unfortunately, it just died during the race.
Well, you gave it everything you had behind the wheel. We could see that.
Well, gave it a shot.
Thanks, Chris.
Always competitive. Chris Neifel out for the day here at Lime Rock.
And you can see by the perspiration on his face just what the heat is doing to these drivers. Talk about heat. Scott Pruitt, who has led all day long, is starting to get some now from the Corvette of Darren Brassfield. Brassfield's number 88 car is pulled right up on Pruitt's bumper, thanks, of course, to the yellow flag coming out. Irv Hare is right in that pack. Walter Rule, Les Lindley. You've got 5 different makes and models in the top 5. In fact, in the top 6. Len St. James in the XR4 TI. There's the other Audi with Hurley Haywood. Deborah Gregg has now fallen down to 10th as Jim Derhog and Jerry Kuhn both got around her. And look at this. Darren Brassfield is pulled up alongside Scott Pruitt in the Roush machine as if to say, hi there, I'm your new neighbor. He's in that 2nd spot. Let's check in with Brock Yates in the pits with the captain of this operation.
Steve, I'm with Jack Roush, who tells me that maybe this is a kind of auspicious caution period for Scott Pruitt. Is that correct, Jack?
Yeah, we're kind of taking stock of things. Scott's been running the car quite a bit harder than we wanted to. You know, we're real nervous that the Audi's going to make a charge at the end. He's been really good on his tires. The V6 should be good on her tires. Darren's a surprise. We hadn't expected Darren to be as close as he is. So we had expected to give some room and to be willing to run 2nd or 3rd if the car's strung out, but as close as everybody is, and figuring that there's a V6 car with a known good tire situation at the end of the race and an Audi with a demonstrated ability to finish the race fast, we're going for all we can. So this caution is at a good time to give us a chance to cool our tires off, but we've been going for it, and we're going to keep pressing as hard as we can.
Good deal. Well, good luck, Jack. Thanks.
Thank you.
And now let's go to Steve with the captain of the Audi team.
And Bob Tullius, we heard a report that Hurley Haywood possibly had some boost problems with the 44 car.
Yeah, we don't know what the problem is, but the boost is dropping off, and so is Hurley. He doesn't seem to be losing much in the way of lap times, though, so perhaps he'll be able to prevail and hang in there a little bit.
Now, he has a gauge in that car. How far down from maximum is it?
I think it's about, he said it was about 5 points, which is considerable.
Significant indeed. Okay, thank you, buddy.
Okay, Bob Julius back on the radio with both of his drivers out there, currently in contention, but well behind the 2 men who are going to fight it out for the lead. That is Darren Brassfield right on Scott Pruitt's bumper, Steve.
I enjoyed your conversation with Jack Roush. Interesting to see how he had apprised before the race all of these cars and their various potentials, and he's been pretty accurate so far.
All right, as Pruitt comes down the hill, he anticipates a green. He's on it. Right behind him, Darren Brassfield. Heading down the front straightaway, they've got a green flag, and Brassfield drafting Pruitt as they head down towards Big Bend.
Boy, this has the potential to be one of the most competitive and exciting Trans Am races of the season. Lincoln Mercury versus Chevrolet. Scott Pruitt out front. Pruitt, who has led every lap. Darren Brassfield in the 2nd spot on the Corvette. He has had to contend with some very tough competition, including Irv Hare, Paul Newman. Newman, by the way, back out on the racetrack. He has fallen a lap down and is in the 11th spot. But what a valiant drive so far by Darren Brassfield. A lot of similarities here. Both are big cubic and low compression motors, a combination pioneered by the Brassfield team. They removed fuel injection. They went to that low compression motor so that under the rules they could lighten up the car. And it has worked. In fact, they're being imitated now.
A lot of short track technology in these cars. Those 9-to-1 compression ratio engines originally designed for short track stock car competition and have now made their way into the SCCA Trans Am series. And boy, I'll tell you what, between these two cars, we know they work.
And between these two drivers, we have got a scrap for the headline. Brock, both want to go on to Formula One. In Scott Pruitt's case, maybe Indianapolis version. Darren Brasfield will start the Indianapolis circuit later this year.
That's right. Both these young drivers are major, major stars of the future, a lot of people believe. So as we watch them sweep off the S's, it looks as if Pruitt has pulled out a little bit on Brasfield. And here's your race for fifth. That is Les Lindley in the yellow number 8 Camaro. And right behind him, continuing his charge toward the front, is the number 44 Audi of Hurley Haywood.
And let's remember, Hurley Haywood is reported, in fact, it's been confirmed by Bob Tullius, that the boost is down on that automobile. And that may account for why he's having such difficulties in passing Les Lindley. There he's going to try to do it. Nope, that won't work. Hard on the brakes is Hurley.
Well, let's not forget, Steve, despite that handicap with the turbo, he started 11th and is now challenging Les Lindley for 5th. The last one he disposed of was Lynn St. James, who has now fallen back to 7th spot. So Hurley Haywood is definitely on the move here, despite a somewhat handicapped horsepower situation. So the 44 all-wheel drive Audi doing a good job here behind the wheel, a man who is very experienced. And moving through traffic now, Hurley Haywood currently in the 6th spot, but on the move here at Lime Rock. Stay with us. We'll be back with more in the Escort Trans Am right after
The clear blue waters of the rivers in northwestern Connecticut flow at a very leisurely and soothing pace. But at Lime Rock Park, there's nothing leisurely about what is unfolding at the front of this Trans Am Sedan Championship. Scott Pruitt, the Lincoln Mercury automobile, is in the front as he has been since the drop of the green, and right behind him is Darren Brasfield in the Corvette, who has come from 6th place.
Steve, in the 6th through 10th, we've got some news as far as Paul Newman's fortunes are concerned. Remember, he had to stop to change a left rear tire, fell back to 11th, and now has moved all the way up to 9th and is charging.
And speaking of charging, there is Darren Brasfield trying to drive his Corvette into the corner a little later than Scott Pruitt. You saw the brake lights as he finally had to touch him to scrub up a little bit of speed. But Pruitt right now appears to be just as strong as the boss Jack Roush hoped he would be.
Oh, there they come down the main straightaway through some traffic. Brasfield weaving his way inside. What a pass Brasfield made there. Now he gets hooked up a little bit behind a lap car. Lap car in the way. That's Yarmaluk, who spins. David Yarmaluk in the 18 spins right in front of Darren Brasfield. But it didn't bother him for more than a matter of a few seconds. It gave Pruitt a chance to break a little bit away from the hounding that Brasfield has been giving him for the last few laps. There goes Yarmaluk back underway. No damage there. He started 32nd, and I would imagine he's not a whole lot farther forward in the field even now. He's had troubles all day. But as for Brasfield and Pruitt, well, there is Scott, and he has a little bit of breathing room now as he comes down the hill, maybe a 10 or 12 car length lead. But I got to believe that Brasfield will make up the distance again. And now let's go to Steve.
Well, Brock, when the checkered flag falls in this 100-mile Trans Am, one driver will receive a very special award, $500 in cash, and he will have earned it. It's called the Timex Speed Track Timely Move of the Race Award. Now, if I was voting, as SC officials do, if I were voting, I think I'd go with Darren Brasfield. He's made 3 timely moves. He qualified 6th. He's picked off Lynn St. James. He's picked off Irv Hare, Walter Rules, and that's no easy pick. It's currently running in 2nd. I like Darren's chances of winning that $500, maybe the entire race.
Well, Steve, they just improved because they threw the caution flag. We got a full course caution, and that means that Darren will tuck right in behind Scott Pruitt one more time. Remember, he'd fallen back a little bit because of that spinning car in front of him, but that advantage that Scott Pruitt enjoyed briefly has been eliminated.
And here is the reason for that full course caution. Old tires never die. They just prevent guys like Mike Broomer in car number 43 from going about a half a mile into the woods. Mike started in the 16th spot, was running 18th. The car is in a situation or in a position there where it could get T-boned by one of the cars still in the event. So wisely, the pace car is coming out in front of Scott Pruitt. But for Pruitt, it's not good news. Darren Brasfield is now right behind him. And right now there are only 11 laps left in this 100-mile contest. Stay with us from Lime Rock.
Here at Lime Rock, Connecticut, as the final laps of the Escort Trans Am unfold, with Scott Pruitt holding on to a matter of a half a car length lead. That's under yellow, Steve. The question is whether or not Jack Roush's concerns about tire wear will hold up here. He was surprised at the strength that Darren Brassfield had shown in the middle stages of this race, and I would imagine Jack Roush is concerned right now.
Well, concerned also is Bob Tullius, the man with his back to us in the Audi pit. He is getting radio reports from both Walter Earl in 14 and Hurley Haywood in 44 that they have smoke emanating from the dashboard of those automobiles. And standing by there with a fire extinguisher just in case something should go wrong is one of the crewmen. So that's kind of an unusual thing to have happen, especially under caution.
Well, you can be sure that they'll leave him out there until the situation becomes intolerable for the drivers, as Brassfield remains tucked right in behind Scott Pruitt, and they are accelerating down the hill onto the front straightaway. They anticipate a green flag. Yes, a pace car rolls onto the pit lane, and a green is out, and Brassfield's back at it, Steve.
Oh, this is just a bare-knuckle shootout to the checkered flag. Not that many laps away. Now, Pruitt right there in Big Ben kind of scored it out, a little advantage. And here's the race for sixth. There's the yellow Camaro of Les Lemley, the number 8 car. Len St. James. Len drops a wheel off into the dirt, and she tangles with Jerry Kuhn. We've got multiple spin. Also, number 55, Bob Sobey. He had no place to go. He came in and tagged Len St. James. Number 40, Jim DerHaag, just barely got through, and so did Bruce Nesbitt. Boy, what a tangle at Big Ben.
And there's the 27 car, George Smith. He's trying to get back underway as well. But the big loser in that deal was the number 55 machine of Bob Sobey. That car looks like he's out for the day. Everybody else underway. Didn't affect the leaders, though, although Brassfield has fallen back a little bit, Steve. He has lost that close-up advantage that he had, and Pruitt seems to be opening out.
And that accident did not bring out a full course yellow. A yellow momentarily down at Big Bend till they get all of that cleaned up, but not a full course yellow. So that's an advantage. Well, look at those cars starting to slide now.
Oh,
Scott Pruitt and Darren Brassfield are dirt trekking their way around Lime Rock.
A lot of oil and rubber down on this little racetrack, and it's showing here as these two cars are really slipping and sliding, and two very, very solid young drivers. And look at Brassfield slide in to that corner up over the hill. He is now packing away. He's moving back in again.
And you can hear Scott Pruitt's car lose traction as he crested the hill. The wheels spinning. That's something that he doesn't need right now. He doesn't need to wear any more rubber off those tires that is absolutely necessary. There's not that much left.
There is Lynn St. James in the 2 car. She is running very slowly, I would imagine, heading for the pit. There, too, is George Smith. He is running slowly as well. Both of those cars casualties in that corner crash right down here in turn number 1, the Big Bend, that Brassfield and Pruitt are now negotiating. Brassfield right in behind Pruitt again. Pruitt a little cleaner coming out of the Big Bend that time, Steve. Not quite as big a slide. But, you know, it seems as if Scott has just a little bit more power. There is the Lynn St. James Mercourt. The whole right side torn up, and they're going to make a tire change on the right rear. Those tires, of course, taking the brunt of the damage. So she is going to lose a couple of places for sure, probably more.
Well, certainly this round crew is doing everything in their power to get her out there as quickly as possible. She also took on a right front tire. So there is Lynn, burning rubber, out of the pits, trying to rejoin the fray. She has been pushed back now to the 11th spot due to the time lost in the pit area.
Tough break for Lynn St. James, who was running hard, and I'm sure had high hopes. Let's take another look at exactly how this transpired. There is Lynn down low, trying to get underneath Les Lindley. On the outside is Jerry Kuhn in the number 10 car. There, Lynn gets a wheel on the inside on the dirt, and then kind of swings wide. And there goes Kuhn around with her. It almost looks like synchronized swimming here. And it's hard to see where she actually hit Kuhn. I wonder if there was a little magnetic field between the two of them there.
Then a chain reaction occurred. 55 Bob Sobey got in, did the major damage to the right side of Lynn's car, and he was in turn tagged by 27 George Smith. So nobody in that much got out accident-free, really.
No, but the guy that took the big hit was poor old Sobey, who kind of arrived on the scene late. Here is Walter Worrell running still up among the top 5, but has fallen well back from the 2 leaders. He he really has no hope of winning between the two men leading this event, Brassfield and Pruitt. They are dominating right now.
And there is only 2 1/2 laps left for Darren Brassfield to make up what, about 30 yards there on Scott Pruitt.
Well, he certainly has a couple of things to his advantage, not the least of which is aerodynamics. That car is considerably cleaner than the Pruitt Mercure, which is a converted four-door sedan, really. And I would imagine that if we've got an advantage to the brakes, it would be for Darren Brassfield. He has run well. There he goes around the outside of Lynn St. James, who is running slowly, not in contention anymore, way back in 11th. But that's going to hurt Brassfield. He's having troubles getting around St. James.
Let's remember, she's a teammate of Scott Pruitt, and she held up Brassfield there just for maybe 2, 3, possibly 4 seconds. But it could make the difference in the outcome of this race.
Very possible. Brassfield now has fallen back maybe 2 or 3 more car lengths, but let's not count him out. The man has got all kinds of desire and has been able to outbrake, I think, Scott, at the end of this long straightaway. So let's see what happens as Pruitt goes by Smith one more time. Brassfield off in the dirt a little bit. You can be sure he's trying for everything he's worth.
Well, he's only got 1.53 miles if he's going to pass Scott Pruitt and win this race. One thing, Brock, for sure, we know after today, Darren Brassfield really enjoys, and look how loose Pruitt is. So is Brassfield, for that matter. He enjoys driving these sedans. You can get out and get physical with him.
Look at this. He's right up on Pruitt's bumper now. The final lap. As they go around a couple of lap cars, Brassfield has made up that entire disadvantage that he had and is now prepared to challenge as they only have 3 more corners left. Pruitt up over the hill, heading toward the west bend. Brassfield falling back just a little bit. It'll be the charge down the hill. It'll count now, Steve.
Well, Darren Brassfield hoping that gravity is on his side now as down the hill they charge. Scott Pruitt, Darren Brassfield, neither could have that much tire left, maybe even not that much braking left. But boy, are they going for it. 2 young pros, and it is Scott Pruitt winning by a car length over Darren Brassfield. Brassfield pulls alongside, I'm sure, with his thumb up. This is the best finish for Brassfield this year in Trans Am.
Terrific effort on both these drivers' parts as they head for victory lane. And look at this. Hurley Haywood drives by Walter Rural to finish in the 4th spot. Now, that was a planned move, Steve, because Haywood leads the points in the Trans Am Series, and it was obvious to their advantage that he get the points for the higher finish rather than Walter. So that was a change there at the last minute to give Audi the advantage and to further lengthen Hurley Haywood's lead for the points championship.
And there is the winner, Scott Pruitt, showing the form that carried him to last year's championship. This is first Trans Am win of the season. We'll be back to talk to him and the top finishers after this.
What a race it was here in the Escort Trans Am at Lime Rock, Connecticut. Scott Pruitt and Darren Brassfield. A wild shootout all the way. Irv Hare, Hurley Haywood, and Walter Rural round out the top 5. The comeback of the day, probably Paul Newman. Cut down a tire, fell way back, and then finishes in 7th. And now, let's go to Steve with a winner.
Well, there's nothing American race fans like more than a battle between General Motors, the Ford Motor Company, Scott Pruitt for Lincoln Mercury. What a car race.
It was unbelievable. I mean, the last few laps, we were right on each other, and, we didn't have much tire left, but, boy, we ran all out. Darren did a fabulous job, and I can't say enough about my car. The Strolite car ran fabulous all day long. What a race.
They appeared to be very evenly matched, tire-wise even. I think the wear was about equal.
It seemed to be. I mean, both of us, I think, I was looking at us sliding and looking at my mirror, and he sliding. And I think that we were both about the same on tires. I think he opted to go with the harder 650 as well as I did. So at the end, I mean, I think we pretty much were evened out there.
You had some caution laps to cool off a little bit, get your strength. That may have helped a bit.
I think that helped. When I saw the cautions come out, I really didn't want to because traffic managed to give me just a little bit of a lead, and I didn't want to be having him right back behind me again, but he did a fabulous job today.
He was really coming after you on that last lap. He was really pushing everything he had.
I think, yeah, it's been a long time since Darren and I had such a good race, and it's real nice when you have a real tight race like this and have so much fun at it, too.
That's right. It's nice to win, and even better when you can have fun doing it. Congratulations. Great job.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go to Brock Yates with the guy who's got to be pleased, even though he's in the 2nd spot, Darren Brassfield. Brock?
Okay, Darren Brassfield out of the Corvette after a super strong drive. Darren, you got to feel pretty happy. You couldn't get him quite at the end, but you moved right through the field and then kind of stabilized right behind him for a while, and they were concerned about you, I'll guarantee.
Yeah, well, you know, the cars were just so evenly matched that, you know, Scott would go sideways and I'd go sideways, and he'd brake and I'd have to brake. So it was one of those things that we were running the same lap times, and, you know, it was just like a train. Nobody was moving. So it was just a matter of who was going to make a mistake or how the traffic panned out. You know, one of the Ford cars, you know, play a little team favor and just well, second to the last lap. And, I mean, that's all in good fun, but, you know, if you're wounded, you know, move over and let you guys have a good race. And they played a little chicken with us.
These 9-to-1 motors, basically the same setup with this car and yours, seem to be well suited for this racetrack.
Yeah, you know, we made a couple changes with the back of the car because we were having trouble burning off the rear tires, one of them, one either side. And it seemed to work, you know, make the car last the whole race. Scott's got a good car, and you know he's got power because of the Jack Roush power, and Scott's an excellent driver.
Well, you did a super job yourself. We were real proud of you. Excellent work.
Thank you.
Steve?
Well, already with a wet towel around his neck, something I'm going to be looking for in just a few minutes. Irv Hare, a good, strong third place.
Yeah, you know, early in the race, seemed like we were in pretty good shape, but until we got in traffic, and then the momentum thing got to us. You know, when we got in traffic, the V6 car would get slowed down, and it'd take it a half a lap to get going again, and the V8s would pull away from us. So, but other than that, you know, if it wouldn't have been for the yellows, I think we'd have been in a little better shape.
The two cars in front of you were using large cubic inch low compression motors. Is that something you might consider after watching what you saw today?
Yeah, we definitely are. We talked about it on the radio on the last lap, so yeah, we definitely are. And, you know, it looks like the way to go right now.
All right, well, seldom are race decisions made before the checker even falls, but in Irv Hare's case, that's exactly what happened. Okay, Brock.
Well, Steve, a great show overall by these three drivers and all the rest of the field here at Lime Rock. And by the way, you might have thought that Darren Brassfield would have won that Timex Speed Track Award, but it went to Paul Newman because he made a terrific comeback after his pit stop to finish 7th. For Steve Evans, I'm Brock Yates. Thanks for joining us.
The executive producer for American Sports Cavalcade is Harvey M. Palish. Produced and directed by John B. Mullen. Promotional consideration provided for and a fee paid by the Style Auto World Championship Team, the nation's premier source of fast lane fashions. Style Auto, the champion's choice for the style of your life. The American Sports Cavalcade is a presentation of Diamond P Sports.